Welcome to the thrilling world of Security Squawk, where we explore cybersecurity. Guiding you through online threats, we'll aid you in understanding safety protocols and trends. Meet our gurus, Brian from Exact IT, Reginald from Arc Solvers, and Randy from Tech Rescue. Together, we'll delve into current events and hot cybersecurity topics, helping you comprehend their impact. Stay informed, stay secure. Security Squawk, the business of cybersecurity. Buckle up, let's dive in.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Security Squawk podcast. I am Brian, your co-host with Andre and Randy. How are you gentlemen today?
What's up?
Hey, doing good, feeling good.
That's good. That's good. I think I did the thing right on our social media stream thing, but who knows? We should be streaming live here on Facebook, YouTube, other places, LinkedIn. You guys got your, it looks like you guys got your LinkedIn connected, your YouTube's connected. Looks awesome. So wherever you guys see us, wherever you're consuming this podcast content, whether you listen to us or whether you watch us through a live stream, first off, we appreciate the support, number one. Number two, if you could do us a favor and just do something, share our show with your feed, with your audience. Like the video if you can do that. If you have a little like button there, hit the like button. If you want to interact with us during the show, you can drop a comment in the comment section. We can see it live in most situations. And if it's relevant to what we're discussing, we will bring that up on the screen and discuss it as part of the conversation. So it's a way for you, our audience, to also interact with the show. We do all that for you for free. We research this content. We look into these different cyber events, ransomware events, business email compromise events. We learn how they are impacting the business, and then we dissect that and figure out how that relates to you and your life and how you can start protecting yourself. That's what we do. That's the goal of this show. As Andre rightfully pointed out in the green room, this is our fourth year of doing this show. I think we've consistently posted a podcast episode once a week for the last 4 years. So do the math. Do we have 1,200 episodes at this point? Is that about? We're well over that. Is that right?
One a week would be more like 200.
200, right? 200 episodes. Yeah. I was doing days, not weeks.
One a day. That would be a brutal schedule.
Yeah. Yes. Trying to do this podcast every day.
There's enough news for it, though.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. So
just doesn't pay us enough.
Just remember to help us grow the show by sharing it, and then we'll continue to put this show and this content out there to help people understand how to protect themselves in this new digital age that's ever evolving, ever changing. And your tactics for protecting your data and your information need to change on a regular basis as well. And you need to evaluate where these risks and threats are coming from. And hopefully you see value in this show because we give it to you probably sooner than most places are giving it to you. And we talk about trends and things that we're seeing in the industry well before it becomes reality in a lot of cases. So your support goes a long way into helping us continue to do this show. So we appreciate the support. Anything you guys want to add there before we get into the content for today?
No, sir.
Cool.
No, just been a pleasure.
Yeah. It's been
learned a lot.
It's been a fun run for sure. So of course, the podcast is not running live on our Facebook feed for whatever reason. I must have screwed something up there. So I'll try to figure that out here in a minute. So guys, Ahold Delhaize, the big kind of big cyber attack that's kind of floating under the radar there. We did kind of comment and say that the news reporters or the news have to get back to actually doing work again because they don't have, the easiness of reporting the news like they do during an election cycle, especially a presidential election cycle. We're starting to see more kind of news pop up around cyber attacks, more so than we've seen in maybe the last couple months. But this one's a big one, and it's not really hitting a lot of the major news stations yet. But I got to imagine it's going to rise to that level. So let's talk about what's going on. So we have this company, Ahold Delhaize. They're a major grocery conglomerate, and they've experienced a significant cyber security breach affecting its U.S. operations. The attack has impacted several subsidiaries, including Food Lion, Hannaford, and Shop and Stop. Also, Giant Foods, their area; those are in my area. Disruptions affected pharmacy locations and e-commerce operations across various platforms. And some services, particularly pharmacy transactions and their online ordering systems, have been disrupted for several days. What do you guys see in the news reporting about this that you find interesting? Because I've been looking at this since late last week when it was first reported. And the interesting thing to me is you have this major conglomerate, this major Danish-based company that owns all these little food stores. And it's interesting to me because they own, I think, like almost 30 brands of different grocery stores. And I just found that strikingly interesting because from a PR, how information gets out there standpoint, this can be one of those things that stays very local or very regional, and people don't realize it's a widespread nationwide problem. They just look at it like, oh, well, all the Food Lions are having a problem, or all the Stop and Shops. Well, there's no Food Lions in my area, but I do know that they serve a certain area of the country, and that's kind of how these grocery stores are set up. They work in like little pockets. But as you can see, that third-party risk is ever so rearing its ugly head because now you have this parent company that probably runs a lot of the back-end house operations like e-commerce and transaction type stuff behind the scenes because they consolidate it up to the main office. And when they do that, when they have a problem, now you see all these grocery stores having an issue.
Yeah, and I still don't get. I get why, based on how you said consolidate up, but I still never get where it's different payrolls, different laws, different everything, but then you still put all of these together. Some point there's still like it's a point of failure. You still have a one point of failure. And just doing some research about this grocery chain, they have over 7,000 grocery and specialty stores, and they employ 402,000 associates. And the biggest thing now is their pharmacy system is down. And if you've ever dealt with the pharmacy where you have to call your doctor to then tell them to move it somewhere else is a big pain. So a lot of people are being affected by this.
And kind of on a side note, I mean, this also kind of illustrates, how sensitive like supply chains are. If this particular food store had to shut its doors because it couldn't sell, or, if their pharmacies had to shut their doors or whatever, there could be a really big disruption in, basically daily life for people. And I would just say a little side note to a side note, if you aren't already doing this, it doesn't hurt. Have a little extra around your house. A couple of years ago, it's almost 3 years now, we had a thing in Texas where every single county was had freezing weather. We called it snowpocalypse. And one of the things that in 2022, one of the things that we learned was a lot of people don't have anything extra or anything at all in their house. Like they're going out to eat for every meal or whatever. Anyway, that's a side note on a side note, but doesn't hurt to have a little extra around in case something like this, like your local store can't sell.
And if anybody's interested in freeze drying, Randy has his on Thursdays at 10 a.m. He'll tell you all about what they do over there in Texas.
Podcast.
Another interesting thing about this, which is for me a big, not a coincidence, it's like something glaring. is that their CISO, which is their top operations guy on the technology side, retired. He left in October, so he left last month, and so that's blaring that something was wrong there.
Wow. Yeah. That's one of those reading between the lines things.
I mean, it could be. So that's pretty wild. So interesting stuff here. We'll keep everybody updated. This has the potential to impact a lot of people. I did a video on my YouTube channel on this yesterday. We're starting to see comments in the comments section of the video of people, complaining about the issues at their local grocery store. There's employees who are saying that their store's been shut down. So there's a couple things that I just want to point out that Ahold Delhaize is kind of being tight-lipped about this. A lot of the messages that are coming out to the customers are basically like, hey, we're sorry that, we don't have as much meat as we normally do. We're working. They're, getting things back into the stores, getting the shelves restocked has also been impacted by this in some way, shape, and form, because there are signs on the shelves in the stores that are impacted by this. So we'll see how far this goes. The longer it goes, the more shelves will be impacted. And the less likely it will be that this company can keep this under wraps. And do you guys agree with me a little bit that, like, the fact that these grocery stores are kind of structured the way that they are, and they're in little pockets around the country, kind of help the fact that this isn't as big of an issue from a PR standpoint as it should be?
Right. Yeah. Because if it was a Walmart, then everybody would know. But being that they operate different names, with their own flavor, depending on the town. Like, we only have one food giant that I know of in Miami. And I don't know who goes there, but it's been there forever. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong there, Brian.
Yep. So we'll continue to keep everyone updated on this. I'm sure this will end up in our follow-up segment in a future show. So let's move on, guys. Halliburton. They were hit with a ransomware attack, and they have reported losses now in the neighborhood of $35 million. So what are some of the interesting things that you guys are seeing with this event? I mean, we like to come back and cover these events that have happened in the past and kind of give everybody an update and say, well, here's what really happened at the end of the day. I don't think the whole story has been told on this whole situation with Halliburton. But what are you guys seeing here in terms of this particular Halliburton ransomware attack that is catching your eye, especially with the $35 million losses?
The first thing is Randy. Their revenue is $23 billion. So I'm not a math expert, but is that less than 2%? Like, is this a drop in the bucket for them, and they're going to just shrug it off, and everything is still going to be okay?
It really is. Their annual. You said 23 billion.
According to this, 23 billion would it be? Yes.
Yeah. So 1,000 million is a billion. So we're looking at a really tiny amount based on overall revenue for the year.
Yeah. And so, in other words, the other way to look at this is, we talk about those SEC regulations and the fact that they had to file Form 8K to report the incident. And the language that the SEC uses is you have to let shareholders know if there's going to be a material impact on the share price. That $35 million loss translates to a 2 cent per share impact on adjusted earnings. So essentially, they're 2 cents per share is basically what they have to adjust, or what they lost as a result of this.
Mm-hmm.
So when Halliburton responded to the event, they took some systems offline to contain the breach to prevent further access. They also activated their cyber response plan and collaborated with external experts and law enforcement. The company did confirm that hackers accessed and exfiltrated information from its corporate system. though the nature and scope of the stolen data was not disclosed by Halliburton. While Halliburton has not confirmed it, reports suggest that the ransomware group known as Ransom Hub was likely behind the attack. Neither Ransom Hub nor any other ransomware group has publicly claimed responsibility for the attack, which could indicate that Halliburton may have paid the ransom. So what do you guys think there? Think they paid the ransom?
It's a private company. They need this to go away. They have government contracts. They do energy. Yeah, if you got that type of money, you pay things to go away, right? Money solves your problems.
Right.
Well, and it says they had to file an 8K with the SEC. Does that form not tell us if they paid it or not?
They
Or
don't
would
have to
that-
disclose it, no.
Okay.
They can, but they don't have to.
Well, it seems like they did. There's
Well, the other interesting side of this could be, and as Andre rightfully pointed out, that they have government contracts. They also think about what they do for the government, and what they could potentially. I mean, they do R&D. They develop things. They create things for the government a lot of times, and somebody else may want that information. Maybe they got paid that way. Maybe a third party or another government got wind of what this ransomware group had, and they decided, hey, we'll pay you for that information. And that could be another reason why this kind of didn't play out like a normal ransomware event. Halliburton could have paid. And, I got to believe, I've said it on this show a lot of times that, part of your incident response plan may or should include a point as to where you would consider paying the ransom, right? And in our experience with recovery events, there may be points in time where there's two things that typically happen in a recovery event, in my opinion, that trigger somebody to want to pay the ransom. It's either because they realize that their backups are not good enough and they're not going to be able to recover, and the only option is to try to use the decryption key to get the data unencrypted.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of it is that sometimes you may have terabytes or multi-terabytes of data encrypted that you need to recover, or systems that you need to recover a lot of data to. And that can take a significant amount of time. But if you couple the fact where if you strategize and you do a recovery process from backup while you're also unencrypting at the same time, theoretically there might be ways where you can figure that out and do that where you get back up quicker because you're doing a recovery from both your backups and the decryption tool. So those are two reasons that I've seen where people who, were adamant that they were never going to pay the ransom, when presented with data in a certain way that says like, hey, instead of being down for 3 months, you can be down for 6 weeks if we recover this way. And that involves paying the ransom and using backups. People are going to listen, and people are going to make decisions based on that, right? Because if getting up 6 weeks sooner, it saves you millions or billions of dollars, the ransomware payment, doesn't seem as bad. Or the $35 million in losses like Halliburton faced doesn't seem as bad, right? So
you don't think in that 35 million there's a line item that just says the payment, like that's also included? Just snuck that in there.
I mean, that's definitely what it's going to be when they report their earnings.
Yeah.
And they're giving people a heads up that like, hey, it's going to impact us, and this is how much it's going to impact us. So the incident caused disruptions at Halliburton's Houston headquarters. It affected global connectivity to networks, but no impact on energy production or supply was reported. The attack highlights the vulnerabilities in the energy sector, which is increasingly targeted by cyber criminals due to its critical infrastructure status. And while significant, the impact of this attack appears way less severe than what Colonial Pipeline which caused widespread fuel shortages and resulted in a $4.4 million ransom payment. As of last reports, Halliburton was still evaluating the nature and scope of the exfiltrated information and determining what notifications might be required. So they don't know what was taken yet, or at least they're not willing to admit it yet. So we will have to continue to follow up on this one. But anything else you guys feel like needs to be discussed before we move on?
Yep.
Cool. All right. So do I have this one? I don't know. Did you guys sneak the new one in on me?
No.
No. Next one is the hospital operations.
Is that what that is? I'm seeing a power, water, waste, new park, something.
Oh, you skipped one.
Oh, you're right. I did. My bad.
It's those bright lights that you're behind, man. It's hard to see.
You know it, Randy. All right, so we got this animal. Sorry about that. I lost my place in the order of the topic. So we have this animal hospital, guys, that was hit with a ransomware attack. Is it a ransomware attack?
It is
cyber attack.
Cyber attack. It is no. It's a cyber attack. Yep. So this has affected the Southern Oregon Veterinary Specialty Center, and the attack occurred around November 9th, 2024, and it is a ransomware attack where hackers encrypted files and demanded payment for unencrypting those files. All computer screens at the center are now went dark. This is what happened, according to the report. A pop-up window appeared demanding payment to regain access to files. They shut down all their networks to isolate the hackers' access. The urgent care was closed and emergency room capabilities were limited. The centers experienced extended wait times. Animals had to be sent to other providers, and 30 devices were lost due to the attack.
Well, first one is the pop-up. I have a problem with that.
Okay.
Users should not be the first one to tell IT there's a problem when it comes to some type of ransom. IT should have gotten an alert because of some tool that they had on their computers that would have then told them. But you're already minutes or hours behind if the user's coming in the morning, double clicking on whatever they're, looking at, and then for them to tell it.
Yep.
So there's something they didn't have everything right in their tool set.
Who says they had IT?
Well,
they had at least 30 computers. So hopefully they had something, you would think, right?
I don't know. Dude, I've seen companies that have gotten that big and they've done it all on their own with somebody who knew enough about computers to get them to that point.
True. This is true. They could have hit the ignore button when McAfee came up. Who knows?
They could have, or they've never needed it, right? They've never had to deal with anything like this.
And plus, who cares about animals? Let me rephrase that. Who cares about, why would someone come and hack me? All we're doing is just, providing care for animals.
So interesting. So in the response, it says that they were able to regain access to files using protected offsite backups. So it seems like they kind of knew what they were doing. They had some help. I mean, they had backups. They were able to shut down the network. They reopened on Sunday, the day after the attack. But then they spent the week focusing on the recovering access and workflows. And then they plan to conduct a comprehensive debrief at the end of the week to understand lessons learned. Probably won't have the full story at that point, in my opinion. Life-saving machines, patient files, and x-rays were all impacted as they require computers to operate. And the center's ability to deliver care to the community animals was hampered and left customers and clients frustrated. So the statement from the center says that the hack is a stress test of their existing protocols. So it sounds like they think they were prepared, and that they emphasize their commitment for providing care to the community's animals and their owners. So interesting.
I don't know.
What do you think?
But they lost. They put in the article they lost 30 devices. They had to replace 30 devices. So I just don't see how, what, let's just say it's $1,000 per computer. Let's just say that's 30 grand. Like, is that part of your plan to lose 30 grand of equipment, or do you put something in place so you don't have
I think part of the lessons learned is going to be we're not as prepared as we thought. Right. And that's the thing. That's why been doing this show for 4 years, Andre, right? Because I'm not going to stop doing this show until I feel like the business world, the US business landscape has significantly changed to the point where they're all doing things the right way. The reality of it is most companies are doing things the wrong way. And I say this on a week-to-week basis. So protect your own data, take things in your own hands, because you got guys like this running around who are like, oh, this is just a stress test for our awesome protocols that exist. Well, they weren't that great because, as Andre pointed out, you lost 30 computers.
Yeah, and are they sure that the bad guys are out now? That's a little disturbing there. It is good though that they at least are aware of this, and we're at least trying to think about cybersecurity before all of this happened. It sounds like, based on the interview with that person.
But that's the frustrating part of what I say. To me, Randy, is okay, we dipped our toes in it a little bit, right? But it's not enough. And like, I'm kind of frustrated and tired at this point because this has been around long enough that, to me, if you wake up every single day and just continue to run your business and think that you're fine, and you don't even dig a little deeper to find out if you're not, like, that's the problem. Like, everybody thinks they're fine and they're not. And it's obvious to guys like us that most businesses are not fine. But when is the rest of the world going to wake up and realize that they're not doing enough? And it's just getting frustrating over and over again to hear these guys come out and say, oh, this is a stress test. No, well, your stress test failed. Like you literally, your patient just had a heart attack in the middle of your stress test. So it's not a stress test. A stress test is not. Now I'm going to go off. Because calling this a stress test is fucked up in the first place. Because this is a hack. You have systems down. You have information probably stolen. I mean, I don't know if people care that their dogs' x-rays are on the dark web now. But at the end of the day, these veterinary customers are probably going to get phishing emails and who knows what. Moving forward, they're going to be the ultimate victims that have to deal with this hack. And here you go, you got this center calling this a stress test of their existing protocols. Well, the stress test shouldn't be done because of a hack. A stress test is done as part of a tabletop exercise or something like that, right? Your stress test, like I said, just failed. Your patient just died in the middle of your stress test because you lost 30 systems. So to call it a stress test is kind of like, not good.
And going back to, you said, we've been doing this for 4 years. So I'm, if I could share my screen, but it's okay. We don't have to share. But I'm looking at our YouTube page, and I'm looking at 3 years ago, and just looking at the topics, right? We have social engineering attacks. Fed warns about hospitals. 10 ways ransomware attackers pressure you to pay the ransom. Like, we're in a way saying the same thing, just highlighting different companies. Like, what has really changed that much in the 4 years? I mean, it's the same stuff, just 100%. Different names. Now there's Black Bite. Now we're talking about, Medusa. What is it, Medusa? There's just healthcare. 2 years ago, healthcare under siege by the FBI. FBI was warning it. How much have we seen since 2022 about that?
Almost nonstop.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's crazy. That is wild to me that they said that their hacking event is a stress test. That is just crazy to me. So, oh boy, I can't wait to get to this one. This is an interesting one. City of Sheboygan. where is this city? I'm trying to find it right now. So,
Sounds like Michigan or Minnesota.
oh my God. So Sheboygan, the city of Sheboygan experienced a serious cyber attack involving unauthorized access to its network and a ransom demand. The city became aware of the issue in late October, early November, and on November 7th, the city took action to finally isolate the network. The city isolated its network to secure its systems. They launched an investigation with cyber experts, and law enforcement was called in to help and handle the situation. An external party, unknown, made a ransomware demand as part of the breach, and the city is cooperating with law enforcement regarding this demand. They got a local cybersecurity expert who suggested that the attack indicates that the city didn't have an active monitoring or network activity in place, which is just what Andre said in the last article that we covered. Thoughts here, guys? Growing trend of cities being hit across the United States. What are your thoughts here?
But don't worry, there's nothing indicating that any sensitive personal information has been compromised.
I mean, ultimately, they're going for money, and however they can get money, they're going to do it. And if that means, a ransom, if that means selling the stuff on the dark web, whatever it is, using, invoices and ACH, tricking people into that, all of this is going to be used for money. And my concern is we're not seeing a bunch of cities out there all talking about being gung-ho about being cyber secure. We're not seeing it hardly at all. It's disturbing. And a lot of cities, I would even say probably, I'm just guessing this, but it's my opinion. I would say even the overwhelming majority of cities are just sitting ducks out there.
Any other thoughts there, Andre?
The mic drop or what?
No, your mic didn't drop. I was waiting for Andre to say
no,
something.
it's exactly right. They're literally sitting ducks.
All right, guys, moving right along. We'll kind of go almost a little rapid fire here because we got a bunch of topics to kind of jam in here. What can we go till? We good for another 13 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we have this hospital, this ransomware gang, set a deadline to leak hospital data. So this hospital, known as Memorial Hospital and Manor in Bainbridge, Georgia. By the way, that Sheboygan is in Wisconsin. So that's where Sheboygan is, Randy.
Yeah, that was my last guess right before you started talking.
You were close. So the hospital fell victim to a ransomware attack, and the attack was discovered on Saturday morning, and it disrupted access to the hospital's electronic health record system. Not good. The impact, as reported by the hospital, is the staff had to revert to pen and paper for the recording of patient information. Of course, there were longer wait times for patients, and the hospital implemented downtime procedures. The Embargo ransomware gang claimed responsibility for the attack on Monday, and the gang added that Memorial Hospital and Manor to their Tor-based leak site, and they claimed that they stole 1.15 terabytes of data. And the group has threatened to make the allegedly stolen data public on November 8th, and this deadline was set unless a ransom was paid before then. Embargo is a relatively new ransomware group that emerged earlier in 2024. They operate as a ransomware as a service business model, and the group engages in double extortion tactics, stealing data, and then demanding a ransom. The hospital's response so far has included an investigation into the incident. They started working on a restoration and recovery plans, and the hospital aimed to be transparent about the situation with the public. So here we go again, guys. Another hospital dealing with a ransomware attack, dealing with a lot of data stolen. We saw how that played out for hospitals like Lehigh Valley Health Network, where they decided not to pay or negotiate, and their Patient records ended up all over the dark web. What do you guys think is going to happen here?
Well, according to the article, they had one post on November 1 on their Facebook about this incident. So first off, is that literally all the communication that they have? And then two, this goes back to that whole thing of, should they pay the ransomware? Should they not? Should it be legal to pay a ransomware? Should it not? Because basically the data that's in the 1 point something terabytes of data that they've stolen will be released on the dark web if the ransom is not paid. So I don't know if this was a double extortion. Did they also ransomware some machines? It may say in this article, or did they just steal the data and then do that kind of ransom? But bottom line is there's a bunch of data about to be released on the dark web if they don't pay the ransomware or the ransom or work out some kind of a deal.
They need to work out the deal. Don't let all of these patients, they're not going in the hospital for fun. And the last thing they need to worry about is having their data out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting pretty bad with hospitals, and it's a lose-lose situation for everybody. I mean, patients, the hospitals, at the end of the day, hospitals, unfortunately, the answer, the long-term solution, the problem will be solved by hospitals taking cybersecurity more seriously and protecting their data like they should. So
I'm going to go out there. If you get federal funding, there needs to be a rule that says you have to do this and you have to prove it. You have to get it. That's when federal funding will, if they can do that, I think that it's
coming, but they gotta, I think, I'm involved in CMMC pretty heavily, and I think CMMC will be that is the model. Like, they're using the Department of Defense, all the resources that they have to kind of roll this out, figure it out, get it right. So when they roll it out to other institutions like Health and Human Services and the Department of Education and the FDA, they're already going to know how to do it. It's going to be tried and true. It's almost going to be plug and play in a lot of situations. And I think that's how it's going to play out. And it is coming. It's just a matter of time. They just got to figure it out and do it the right way. I mean, it's taken them many years to figure it out with CMMC and the DoD. So it won't take them as long with these other organizations, but they are figuring it out. It is coming. The world is not going to continue to operate in this way for much longer, which is, letting businesses do whatever they want so cyber criminals can make ungodly amounts of money.
One thing at the end of this article, it did talk about the Biden administration. They had a briefing at the United Nations Security Council, and they called ransomware a public health crisis. That's just not a cybersecurity problem.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, there's a joint statement we're going to talk about at the end. Yep. All right, so let's move on. Interesting. File this one under interesting, gentlemen. This has to do with the Schneider Electric. I think we talked about that in a podcast or two ago. This article that we found out of Forbes that the Hellcat ransomware group demanded a payment of $125,000 in baguettes. Yes, bread, French baguettes. Which is highly unconventional and attention-grabbing. Despite the baguette demand, the group also requested a payment in Monero cryptocurrency, a favorite among cyber criminals, for its supposed anonymity. But this Hellcat group is a relatively new ransomware group that emerged in early 2024. And this attack is one of their first high-profile incidents. Schneider being a major French multinational corporation, the attackers claim those stolen 40 gigabytes of data, including 7,500 unique email addresses and full names of employees and customers. And Hellcat offered to reduce the ransomware payment that they were requesting of Snyder by 50% if they publicly acknowledged the breach, which was another interesting move by the group. So they were kind of just looking to kind of get their name out there.
Yep.
And the baguette demand is just a stunt to gain attention.
Yep.
And get, Forbes to write about it and get guys like us to talk about it on our podcast.
And we just did.
Interesting. Your thoughts here, guys? Interesting move or?
Yeah, it's definitely mocking them. But Schneider Electric also has French origins,
right?
So they're playing a little stereotype on that.
Yeah, it's definitely a play on kind of the victim. It's interesting. I gotta say, this is the best marketing I've seen from a ransomware group yet. I mean, and I've been covering this for a long time.
Go ahead, Randy.
Well, it just literally says at the end of their ransom note that making it public reduces the ransom by 50%. So it's not really 125. It's 62,500.
Well, that's just making it public. That's just them coming out saying, "Hey, we were hit by this group."
So there's always been a lot of people in the cybercrime world who seem to really go off of getting a lot of attention. So what were you going to say, Andre?
No, it's similar. Like if you remember, I don't know if they still do it, but back then when they had the college football games and the governors would do a bet. So like if I won, you would have Randy in Texas give me beef and I would give you Florida oranges. So, just to put more spotlight in the game and stuff like that.
Oh man, we need to do a bet like that. I'm down.
Brian, what's your thing that you can give us?
For what?
If our football team won, what would be what's New Jersey's Florida's oranges, coconuts?
What football team?
Exactly.
The government. Oh, you don't have Eagle. Well, yeah, but go ahead. But tell me.
What football team?
Like, let's just say, for example, it was a college game or a football game.
Mm-hmm.
If Florida lost, Florida, because I'm in Miami, I would send you coconuts.
No.
Randy would send you beef. What would New Jersey be?
No, I'm in Philadelphia. And
Philadelphia.
It's cheesesteaks.
Cheesesteak. Oh, okay. Cheesesteak.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
New Jersey. Stop.
I'm always confused where you live.
I live in New Jersey, but I'm very close to Philadelphia. I'm not a New Yorker. And I'm not confused. I don't live in Central Jersey either. So. All right. So let's move on here. Let's go to, wow, I'm losing my spot left and right.
I got 2 minutes, Brian.
You got 2? All right.
Yeah.
Well, the first one I'm going to talk about is this whole New Park Resources. We talked about Halliburton, and here's a little brother in the Halliburton space, New Park Resources. They are a significant player in the oil field services sector, providing drilling fluid systems and composite matting systems, like I know what that is. This attack highlights the vulnerability of this critical infrastructure supplier, just like Halliburton. It was detected on October 29th, and the company disclosed in their SEC filing on November 7th, showing a relatively quick response and transparency. Well, they kind of have to. The ransomware attack caused disruptions to New Park's information systems and business applications, affecting financial and operating reporting systems. But despite the attack, New Park's manufacturing and field operations continued to drill, baby, drill. And no oil was not taken out of the ground as a result. So
they didn't ask to send a barrel. That was part of their demands.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think I just look. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this story, but I think it's one of those stories that highlights we don't really know yet, and we're kind of putting the cart before the horse in some of the things that we're saying. So we'll continue to follow up on this one, but I think in the initial AK filing here, it looks like they tried to make it much to do about nothing. I just think it's too soon. They got hit on the 29th, and I just think it's too soon. You guys feel the same way?
Sure, yep.
Randy?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're saying in this filing. So they're kind of legally required to, so anyway, so yes.
All right, so let's talk about how Black Basta, Andre's favorite ransomware group, is using new social engineering tactics. Let's bring everybody up to date on what Black Basta is doing today. We kind of mentioned it in a video earlier, but we know a little bit more than we did two weeks ago when we kind of talked about that Microsoft Teams exploitation, guys, if you remember.
Yep. Uh-huh.
So the gang starts mass emailing a spam campaign to targeted employees. They target companies specifically. They probably go on your About Us page, and if you have all your team members on your About Us page, or you have everybody on LinkedIn, that's where they're figuring this stuff out. Microsoft Teams exploitation. Employees who engage with the initial emails are added to a Teams chat with external users. So think about this. Email comes in. Your employee clicks on it, automatically creates a Teams chat with these external users as a result of them clicking that link. Then the external users pose as your IT support or help desk staff, adding credibility to the request. They send a Teams message that contains a QR code, which leads them to a malicious website. And in some cases, they're using voice phishing or vishing or phone calls to convince users to install remote management software, meaning remoting tools that we can remote in and do things on your computer. This campaign is happening at massive scale, with one user reportedly receiving 1,000 malicious emails in 1 hour. The attack targets organizations across various sectors and geographic locations, meaning they are spraying and praying. The ultimate objective is to deploy ransomware within the targeted environment once they gain access. Thoughts, guys?
All of this is literally preventable. There's settings on Teams you can do.
Yes.
Obviously, training to the end user for you to be able to just download a remote monitoring tool without having to put an admin password, without having some type of zero trust. Like, this is security 101.
Well, it's security 101, but I analyze thousands of networks all the time, thousands of M365 setups. And there's a lot of companies out there that just went out and set up M365, and they don't realize that all these things need to be kind of turned off or dialed back. So when your employees get a link like that, it doesn't automatically create a Teams chat. You know, it is designed to be easy, but you have to take a look at that easy and say, does this introduce a security risk? And this easy absolutely does. Any thoughts there, Randy? Or are we moving on?
We are moving on. We've got to wrap it up. Andre's got to go.
All right. Well, that'll be the show. We got to go. It's 3 minutes after. Thanks for everyone for the support. We'll see everyone next week. Take care, everyone.
All right. See you next week.
Bye, y'all.